Welcome to DLA Dialogues, Factory to Foxhole, the podcast where we dive into DLA's mission and mindset. I'm your host, Jake Boyer. Today we look ahead, literally, at how the agency is using strategic planning and wargaming to prepare for tomorrow's threats. Joining me is Col Ryan LeBlanc, Director of Strategic Plans and Futures for DLA Logistics Operations, or J3. Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Jake, I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to share what the division does.
Well, just to start off, strategic plans and futures, it sounds like a lot. What does your division do for the agency?
So just as the name would imply, right, it's two parts. There's the strategic plans piece, which is understanding all of that national level guidance, understanding where the joint force is going, understanding the service concepts that will influence DLA, right, and sharing that with DLA senior leadership so that they're aware. Then the second part, the futures piece, which we'll get into a little bit later, is about understanding that environment and how it's changing 5 to 15 years out, right? So that's where my team comes in, really digs into what trends do we see today, where do we forecast that going in the future in a way that we can defend, and then how do we bring that and explore it for senior leaders so that when they're making those resource-informed decisions today, that are going to influence DLA operations a decade from now, how do we give them some confidence that the decisions that they're making are informed or well-informed?
So with that 5 to 15 year time horizon, why now for wargaming at DLA? It's clearly becoming a bigger emphasis.
So wargaming is something that the services have used for a long time. And in truth, military has used since the days of Sun Tzu, right? The business world, where DLA kind of straddles those two worlds between a combat support agency and really operating as a business, has started to use wargaming over the last few decades. What you're seeing now is just a maturation of bringing that process for decision-making into the agency in a way that will help our leaders make decisions. There's a lot of different ways that you can approach understanding a situation, right? So we have wonderful folks, say with ACE, the Analytics Center of Excellence in J6, that build models when we understand the variables, right? But the issue is that, and they'll tell you this, all models are wrong, but some are useful. Where wargaming comes into the situation, when we really don't understand all of the variables, when not one person or one portion of the organization can fully understand an issue, wargaming can bring those experts in, bringing all of those folks together so that they can bring new viewpoints to the issue so that we can understand it more holistically. We still won't get 100%, right? Wargaming and future operations is still very much a forecasting type of an event, right? But what you're seeking is to understand it better, come to some solutions or some recommendations that senior leaders wouldn't be able to come to without those new inputs, and then package them in a way that leaders can make resource decisions in with less risk, all done without having to expend the resources in advance.
Just to pull that thread a little bit, I understand the Defense Industrial Base Campaign of Learning has been going on for a few years now. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. The Defense Industrial Base Campaign of Learning, DIBCOL for short, it's a partnership between J3 and J7 acquisitions. What that one does in the near term, right, existing conditions, is it looks deeply at a supply chain issue, right? We started with the clothing and textiles industry. Mm-hmm. The next DIBCOL game was on bromine and water purification. The one that we just did was on the aluminum industry. And that is everything from the bauxite miners that we brought in all the way to the metal fabricators, from the customers, which were the services, to DLA, who is working within that supply chain to provide for the customers. So you bring all those folks in, you put them together with the policy experts on Joint Staff and OSD, and you try to understand where are the challenges within the industry, and then what then should we do about it so that DLA decision makers can make resource decisions. And that's really the scope of that game series. Very much in the now, but very much related to the work that is being done across DLA.
Where's that going next? You've looked into these 3 supply chains. What's coming soon?
So the next one that we will be rolling out in that game series is the medical logistics supply chain, right? So the first time that we looked at a supply chain, it was something that DLA had a bit more ability to influence. Medical's not that way. It's an enormous supply chain, and we are pulling from the same bank of materials that hospitals are, right? So, and the U.S. doesn't manufacture all of this, and DoD is a much smaller percentage of the medical supply chain. So it has inherently just different issues with us, say, surging production in some cases. So we're going to pull those threads, bring in a new set of experts, and we'll try to give DLA decision makers a bit more understanding in the challenges there.
Transitioning from that, because that's been going on for a while, what about in the future? We've got the DLA Futures campaign of learning now. What does that look like? What is that?
Okay, so that's a brand new one. That is and that War Games series is designed to do a different thing. Ultimately, what we are trying to get after with the Defense Futures campaign of learning, DIFCOL, is we are trying to design a series of games that get after the creation, ultimately, of a DLA future operating concept in the same way that the Joint Force has the Joint Warfighting concept or the services have their future operating concepts. DLA doesn't currently have that long-range North Star viewpoint of we have looked towards the future, we know where the services are going, and let's meet them there at that point. So DIFCOL looks at the contested logistics environment as we understand it and as our customers see it in the future. Then it's going to look at the new technologies, both from an opportunities and a risk standpoint, and how we will mitigate that contested environment in the future. Then we'll move towards DLA organization. And if we're going to incorporate some of these new technologies or change some of our systems, what then does that mean for how DLA must operate in that environment? We'll put it all together, right, through the series of games, and then we'll present that to General Simmerly and Mr. Bunn and the other DLA senior leaders and say, these are our recommendations. We forecasted based on current trends. We think this is how the future is going to go. We can defend that position, and here are some options for you as you look to position the agency in the future.
So as they're looking to position the agency in the future, and you're giving this information, how does your division's work make life easier for everybody out there kind of nose to the grindstone day-to-day in logistics? How is this going to better posture us for a contested logistics environment?
So one thing that we are aware of, right? So we have a small staff, but DLA is a massive organization, and the expertise in the organization is throughout, right? We don't have a monopoly on the staff for good ideas. What we do is we provide an opportunity for those subject matter experts, right, to come in, say, I can see these trends in the present day. I believe these trends are going to be something that impacts DLA in the future. The relationship between the small staff of strategic planners and futurists and the folks that are out in the field that actually have the information that we need to do our job, it has to be somewhat of a close tie, right? And we maintain those connections very intentionally. It gives them the chance to elevate their concerns or elevate opportunities that they see, bring those to the staff, put them together in this series, and then as we are designing those recommendations for the future, it'll incorporate their what they see. So that's really the connection is bringing the folks who know how to run a game but don't have the subject matter expertise to understand every supply chain, together with the folks that understand the supply chains very deeply but may not have the ability to bring those issues to light, right? It marries that up, puts it together, and then ultimately at the end of the campaign, you should have something that is well informed by the subject matter experts and well presented by the folks who understand how to put it together.
Who are your do you have any partners as you're building out these war games?
So absolutely.
Specifically the DLA Futures war game.
Sure. So external partners, we partner a lot with Transcom. We partner a lot with the Joint Staff. And then we have partners in the future components for the services. Then internally, there's the Futures Integrated Process Team, that stood up last year. There are representatives from the staff directorates and the major subordinate commands that have, I won't say dedicated futurists within their sections, but they do have those folks that have been identified to bring those concerns to the FIPT. That's one of the places that we maintain our routine touch points. And then for specific topics, we just reach out directly to the MSCs, and then they provide us the right subject matter expert.
I'm going to wrap this up. Can you discuss the connection and partnership with NDU's Center for Strategic Learning in connection with the future of DIB wargaming?
Absolutely. And we did use them recently on Assassin's Mace, which was not a war game that I ran through Strategic Plans and Futures. That was actually handled by Colonel Matt York. And it was a different intent of a game, right? That one was about making sure that our DLA senior leaders understood an issue a bit more deeply and had the ability to take some time and really consider the impacts to DLA, of that particular conflict. But CASL has a lot of capability that DLA intends to leverage moving forward, right? So they have expertise in gaming. They've got a history for doing that. They're right across the river over there at Fort Leslie J. McNair. We intend to bring them in for some of our futures work, and I believe they also intend to bring them in for some unrelated to my division work as well. But as we move forward with a defense industrial-based game, it's really just leveraging that expertise, right? They've got a bigger team than we do. They've got a more mature wargaming section. And even if we don't use them directly to run a game for us, we bounce off as a community of interest. How would you do this, right? So we've met with them just to talk through ideas, and then separately we've also used them to just run the game almost as a game in a box, right? That type of a partnership, one, as we mature our own capabilities, but two, just for the ability to say, how much resources do we want to dedicate to this, and where can they help us, without us having to devote multiple members of the staff and organizational resources to it. They give us somewhat of an easy button. They're a really good resource to have locally.
Awesome. Before we wrap this up, Ryan, we got to go to the lightning round. Got a couple questions for you. So what are you reading these days?
So I usually I keep my professional reading, and then I've got my personal reading, right? So professional reading related to the job. I'm reading a book called Re-Engineering the Corporation by Hammer and Champy. It's an older book, but it's about disruptive change, right? It's about when new technologies come around, how do you incorporate them? Are they just iterative improvements? Or do you really have to look at the full system, right? And look at how the organization will be influenced by those new technologies and where really should it reshape itself. The other book is just a book on chess. It's called The Amateur's Mind, and it's about common chess mistakes that non-professional players make and how to not do those. It's a bit of that's my hobby.
It's one heck of a hobby. Now, what's your superpower?
So I would say if I have one, it would be a systems perspective, right? It would be the ability to look at a system, understand it not just as one linear process, but to say, okay, well, what are all the influences on this system, and how do I need to explore that? How might I need to design a model to get after that? My background is in architecture, and architecture is very much a problem-solving field. Mm-hmm. And then I was lucky enough to have been sent to AFIT, where I learned system dynamics. But really, the superpower would be to understand a problem in the context of its bigger system.
Conversely, what's your kryptonite?
Well, it goes with that answer, right? So it would be the opposite. I'm not the guy to make the donuts, right? Like I struggle with repetitive tasks. I know that. If you say, here is my sacred cow program, please keep this going forward, my tendency would be to look for ways to kill the cow, right? I like to break processes down. I like to change things, and if asked to just stamp the paper over and over again, that is not something that I will succeed at.
All right. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for your time today. We could go on forever, I think, and that's kind of what the future's all about, is forever. But until next time, for DLA Dialogues, I'm Jake Boyer. Remember, learning is a superpower. Use it wisely.